Peace and blessings, family. Sister Anjali wishing you well. And with that melanin might, you stand a better achievement, ability to reach a peaceful, civilized state of being when you submit to the commands of the Most High and are consistent in just stepping towards better behavior, better ways. You can go to 25,000yearscycle.org and get yourself healing guidance with Dr. She. Right there's a chat link, and you can speak with the brother about what is concerning you, what you feel is holding you back from actualizing the full, just magnificent you. All right. And we have products that will just clean up your spirit from outside to inside. That's for real. Okay. So go on over, check that out. I'm here as a warning. I'm just putting seemingly disparate data together, and it all winds up leading to the general conclusion that the devil ain't never gonna confess, so we best step away from their madness. This entire warning centers around this young sister who there's so much just red flags that it is making me question the narrative. And just a headline here: Department of Defense employee 33. That's the first red flag, because these people, they're all that Masonic nonsense, crazy about the number 33. And a lot of persons will be deliberately sacrificed at that age. I'm not saying whether this woman was or wasn't. I'm saying since we are dealing with entities who obviously have it out for us with the CMOS, the radioactive rice, all different tactics that I have highlighted, including the use of the MMR vaccine. I'm not saying it ain't crap, it's horrible, but the die-off of species by the billions, none of them got that damn vaccine, okay? And so there's another factor affecting our entire ecosystem that has absolutely nothing to do with a virus that was never isolated using Koch's postulates. That's where you take a person who's been diagnosed or autopsied as having died from a predominance of having this virus in his body, and then you take somebody who you know he died of something else altogether, and you compare their blood systems, their tissues, so you can isolate what the probable cause was. And you don't just do that to two people, you do that to a group, a segmented group, a control study. Okay, so they ain't do that with that. And when I look at, there's so much. Anyway, let's get to this young lady, Portia Tanisha Brown. I'm gonna call her our sister because I don't know any details about her. I haven't gone to look to see if she has a Facebook profile or anything of the sort. I'm just going by this article here in Daily Mail, which, in my firm conclusion, is a Freemason controlled website just based on their headlines. There's no doubt about that. A beloved Department of Defense employee died a horrific death during a flight from Washington, D.C. after airline staff forgot to pump oxygen into her mask after she suffered a medical emergency, a lawsuit alleges. So her family, I imagine, is already questioning the narrative of why their beautiful young family member pass away. All right, it was a 15-hour Korean Air flight in the spring of 2024 for a holiday in Seoul with 3 friends when she stopped breathing. This is the first warning I want to give you in terms of, when you are going to these foreign nations, we have been beguiled into believing that if we're that special Negro, the whole world is going to be, finally, a black person who's not ratchet, not ghetto. No, they can't stand all of us. You cannot put your life into their just hands and just blindly trust you're okay. And this sister worked for the Department of Defense. They're sending out all sorts of messages that I'm going to go through, watch the entire share, or at least play it all the way through, because that helps with the algorithm, so they say. I love your comments. That's just the honest thing. I said I wouldn't say anything about that anymore, but it's the truth. I grow reading your perceptions of what's going on, because we're a nation. Nobody's going to get everything done for us. I remember with Minister Farrakhan, where everybody's like, everything, the minister, this, the minute, he's like the second coming of everything. And I'm like, what, is this guy going to go to every single house and work on whatever issues we have? No, we can't do that. I can't do that. And so working together, we're only as powerful an individual as our nation is to protect us. So beautiful Portia Tynesha Brown might have been under the false assumption that her nation were the people who can't stand her. Okay? And that she was just, she was working in the Department of Defense and she was beloved. All right? So what happened here that really made me say, what the hell? What the hell? All right? The Korean air crew members are accused of doing little to help. They're accused. So obviously for them to put it in this language, they're going to make it more somber. Whereas while it was happening, usually it's glaringly obvious that they are not doing anything. Right? And so they did little to help, while travelers who were not trained to use a defibrillator unsuccessfully tried to deploy the device. She was having a cardiac arrest. I've warned about that when you're flying in airplanes, just in general, even before Fukushima. You're in an environment where the pressure that is being artificially created in the cabin to keep it oxygenated, otherwise it would level out with the lack of pressure outside the airplane, and that would be deadly. Right? That can pop off a blockage that you might have anywhere inside your body. That happened to Serena Williams, where she had a pulmonary embolism and she wound up in the hospital for an excessive amount of days, and it looked like she might not have made it. But with the radiation also being recirculated through the systems and the Wigner effect, which is real in these airplanes, you have more chances of having a life-threatening just occurrence on these airplanes. That is increasing exponentially as the rates of radiation fallout has increased in the atmosphere. All right. And so when they did at one point intervene, they made an incredible blunder. It's a lawsuit. Okay. By placing an oxygen mask on her face without it being hooked up to the tank. How the hell you not going to notice the lines and check that there's oxygen coming out of the mask, and you've been trained. You've been trained to do this. What this reminds me of was the killing of Akai Gurley back in 2014 in Brooklyn by Peter Liang. Now, I'm not saying Peter Liang was Korean. I do believe he was Chinese, especially with the name Liang, but I'm not Asian. And so I'm not quite sure what country of his family originated from. All right. And I know a lot of Asians are like, look, I'm American. And I respect that. I do respect that. So I'm not trying to be petty. Even with Korean Airlines, I'm not trying to say that all Koreans have it out against us, whether they're Northern or Southern. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying as a black person, you cannot just willy-nilly put your life fate into the hands of folks who overall, let me go. Why are Asians obsessed with white skin? I've listened to a little snippet of a South Korean man on a dating show where he was just, and they've said like low-key things to make you say, okay, they're on board, even though they're trying to put out there they're not into white skin because they're worshiping white people. But every time I watch Asian dramas, I see the different ways that they worship white people. All right? So yeah, they're not feeling you. I did a share about a swirler, a beautiful sister, perfect, deep dark skin. And her two children, her two sons' daddy was a Korean man. And he finally abandoned her. And she was fit to be tied. As if there wouldn't be, come on, in Africa, there's like 10,000 biracial babies that have been abandoned by Chinese men. So I'm just saying, we need to dispense with this mindset that, as long as somebody's not black, they're better. I have such a stronger chance with them. No. If they hate black people in general, you're only proving them right by running away from your own. It makes no daggone sense. So back to Akai Gurley, where the dude was like, didn't call the actual authorities, even though he's a police officer, he knows what protocol is. He immediately called his attorney when he shot the brother in the stairwell in the dark. And I just wonder, was there anybody who told Peter Akai Gurley to go on out at that time? I don't know. I'm just saying there's red flags aplenty all over all of this stuff. And the Asian community, you would think, I was still really ignorant of just the mindset and the history of just Asia overall. Not completely, but enough that I was shocked when they were holding rallies, giant rallies, in favor of Peter Liang. I was like, you would think that they would even be out there apologizing. There were some Asians who were. I don't want to take that away from them. I'm just saying, they're not on our side. So I'm putting this out here as there's something weird going on. We all know it, all right? But they send out little messages to their operatives on what to do and how to stay in line. And these operatives, they know because they take these oaths. Dr. Shi has been like, I agree with him 100%. Where he's like, you're supposed to bow down to Allah. You're not supposed to be an oath taker to anything else. But you got dudes who are even, I don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it, the nation, who are doing these O's, who are just, like in with the boule, in with the frats, in with the sororities. And here you have Oprah, who, especially during the whole corona thing and the vaccine thing, who was running around in a purple dress. And that's what you do. You put the purple out there when you want to send a message to the Negroes so that they get on board and they know what's up. So when I'm looking at this sister, and she's 33 and she's working for the Department of Defense, it reminds me, oh my goodness, of what's been happening to these scientists who are connected to nuclear. It's right on up in here. All right, it has been tied to nuclear weapons research ever since. And there was a wife who was almost pushed off was it the wife or the husband? One or two. White people, of course. and she was almost pushed off a cliff. And if a white person says, we're going to go for a nice hike up in the mountains over here, don't go. Okay? Not unless you bring in an army, and a black one at that. But yeah, she almost was killed. And they'll have their operatives marry people who are just, fence sitters. They're not sure if they're fully on board for the coven satanic rhetoric where you just do anything that completely goes against your morality in order to get yourself a fancy house. Or to some of these people, they're not interested in the money. They truly are satanic. Okay? And so when I see this, and then there was also, years back before Corona started, a slew of doctors who were, according to the reports, murdered in very questionable circumstances. That's why it looked like murder, one after the other. And most of the overwhelming majority of them were holistic doctors. Like this gentleman by the name of Bradstreet. Was it Jeffrey Bradstreet? I did a share about this. It was on my old channel. But he had found the mechanism for vitamin D from the sun to activate your cells so that cancer was just not going to be a factor for you whatsoever. I highly recommend sunlight, but make sure you are getting adequate amounts of vitamin C and quercetin, because these will work in your body so that the sunlight is not causing carcinogenic damage, according to the reports that I've read. Okay? But yeah, there was like so many doctors being taken out before Corona got popped off, that there was a website, Health Nut News, and that young woman had a whole montage of their portraits, because it was like, I don't remember the number, so I don't want to second guess that, but it was dozens and dozens. And so with that, and then you got, let me see, Pete Hegseth out there. Oh, Pete, firing one high up official in the military after another, including ones with extensive experience. My firm conclusion is that they are really in a chaotic, desperate condition, because many of the strategies that they thought would work, especially with Corona, aren't working. A huge percentage of black people did not get that vaccine. So when you see people going down with things that radiation causes, please read The Crime of Chernobyl, written by Vladimir Chadkov. That's with a T and a C. And then the rest of it is so Russian. My apologies, because I respect Vladimir for writing that book. Right? But when you read through that, and he goes over extensively the work of Dr. Yuri Bandashevsky, these are things that are happening now that they want us to attribute to the vaccine. But these are exactly the same symptoms that befell anyone who was contaminated with Chernobyl fallout. Why is it that's the one thing they never mention? Never. They got a whole slew of operatives. And then people who are good people, but just don't do that further research about radiation, who don't realize just how vast the physical outcome is from taking in radioactive particles, from breathing them in, from having them sink into your skin through the fog. Tritium. It's a low beta emitter, they love to say, but when it's in your body, it's destructive as all the rest of it. And it'll go in through your skin, your pores. Right? And so there's all these people, they never talk about nuclear, but they sure want you to think that it's all coming back. I'm sorry if my thumbnail is in the way. I try not to do that, but sometimes I forget to go back and check. I think I'm pretty good with this right here. But Germany's economy minister urges nuclear rethink. Why do you have to rethink it if it was right from the start? As energy prices surge, growth forecast slides. So this whole oil Strait of Hormuz crap is also perfect for the nuclear industry, which could say, you've got no choice. You always have a better choice than giving birth to mutated children, deformed children. I love every child, but it'll tear your heart out. Because you got people who, this particular brother Sidney Brown and the people he was working with just make it real difficult for me to say brother, but at the same time, you know, whatever. He just flashing the Baphometic symbols, all, you know, the owl, and just like with PD when he, right here, I don't know, I don't think that's anything in particular, but with the owl shirt, I was like, okay, right. You know, they go to these covens. I'm not saying whether he did or he didn't, but with the owl on, that's like, they ain't gonna confess. But at the same time, what you eating? What you eating? Because Alice Stewart, who because of her painstaking, I mean, this woman did research like, whoa, it was intense. All right? I read the book about her whole life, and I was like, what? We've never heard of her? Because of her, we don't get our babies x-rayed anymore, even though it's still available for the idiots. Okay? And I don't mean that in a bad way, though. Yeah, you could take it in a bad way if you are getting your fetus x-rayed, right? And there's no above-ground testing of nuclear bombs. So she was shocked to find out that radiation comes in particles. And it was through reading The Crime of Chernobyl that I confirmed that one atom of radiation is the equivalent of 1,440 devastating pulses of radioactive waves every single day. That's what an X-ray machine puts out. Okay? Only you have it on all day long, and it's atom size, and it's in your body. And ain't nobody telling you that, except for black me, if you're a black person. I know we are not going to go over to Dana Durnford's channel or to Kevin Blanchard's channel. Some of us do because you've been, such a rescue on my channel since I started this. But most people, no, you're not going to go. So you are going to, what do you think, satanic clubs or something black? Heck no, they're not. That's Aleister Crowley nonsense. Do as you will. And they just keep working on us. So that this sister thought she had a plum job. She thought she was being protected by a nation that was working on her best interests. And it's not. It's working on, I don't know what the heck is going on. China, everybody hates China right now. You got North Korea, Kim Jong-un just came out saying, we're going to go for capitalism. You got Cuba that's like, okay, yeah, we like that capitalism. And here you got, at the same time, Bill de Bogota, that's what they're calling him, Bill de Blasio, is in Colombia with alleged China-linked far-left group. They are China-linked. When you saw the No Kings and the first riot that was up in California, they were wearing CCP flag draped over their shoulders and their backs. It was heavily sponsored by the CCP. Gavin Newsom, when she came over to visit California, suddenly they cleaned up every single homeless person there was. place she could have had dinner on the sidewalk. So I'm just saying, and Mayor of LA, Karen Bass, she went and studied in China. So they're counting on our ignorance. They're counting on our wish to believe, oh, but I'm a special kind of black person. They really like me, because my elocution is just so impressive. Whatever the heck excuse you got going on there. No, they love the brothers who are in the hood, who are completely ignorant. They love that. They love to showcase, oh, look at the black people. They're just so uncivilized. You ain't getting more uncivilized than the West. Can they clean it up? I surely wish they would. There's some wonderful white people out there. I am not mad at anybody just because of your skin color. I'm just saying, we as a separate race, a separate nation of people, we need to snap out of it. Right? So Bill de Blasio, his wife divorced him, the lesbian chick. And now he's down. He's got a new girlfriend who's, I guess, Colombian or wherever the heck they are. And they're supporting the Chinese. This is a script because anybody who's done any just more than precursory look into what's going on in China, you don't want nothing to do with the CCP. That is, in the CC, if I went to China, that'd be it. It'd be over. Okay? They have invaded so many platforms. It's not even funny. So when I see this, I'm just like, they still got some other story going on, and I'm just highlighting it because I want you to know we have to be both eyes open. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king, and the two-eyed man is just about to say to hell with all of these daggone devils. Because they're still, emphasize this, and I just want to keep it out there. Scientists dump 65,000 liters of chemicals into ocean and geoengineering experiment. This is to alkalinize the waters. Because the radiation, this is the Atlantic Ocean. It's not even the Pacific, because they were going to come out with one where they were going to accuse China of killing all the whales in the Pacific. Are they over in the Atlantic too? It's so easy to see their lies when you do the research. Okay? And so this was over in, Nantucket, one of those northeastern areas, where they're also all the lobster just gone when their numbers had been through the roof before. And they were blaming the AstroTurf. People are putting AstroTurf on their lawns. Can you show me how that's the only place on the planet where people use AstroTurf? And it's going to kill all the whales. That's like, I remember somebody, and I fell for it, and I wish I hadn't, where for a second they were like, it's the Wi-Fi that's killing the whales in the Atlantic. There's no Wi-Fi in the Atlantic. There's no Wi-Fi in the oceans. Okay? And if Wi-Fi were that damn deadly to kill these gigantic behemoths, in our houses, we would just all be passed out and gone overnight. So they tell obvious lies because they figure we're beguiled by them. We believe them. And this is the one where this is crazy. I hope you can see the whole headline up here. These animals can cause big trouble. Why are states, plural, let me highlight that S right there, unleashing them by the millions? Where they grow them in tank farms, and then they just drop them on the lakes because, and I remember the name, the angler, fishermen. They're going out there and they can't risk having all these angry white men who they already told them, stop hunting the deer because there was so many mutated deer out there. They're like, don't eat it. You can hunt it, but don't eat it. Right? They would be pissed in the eyes. And these dudes, they are so keyed up with the guns. They're falling to pieces. And they're sending messages to all those who they depend on to get the work done. So when I don't get people who aren't upset about pedophiles, right? It's just maybe a coincidence that Trump is there while I'm saying that, but them Epstein files, where'd they go with all this bombing Iran, Strait of Hormuz stuff? That's just totally disappeared. Now they're highlighting Michael Jackson again, yet again. Oh, these children in these photos, they look so uncomfortable. Please present more evidence. Maybe that's the case. I'm not saying. I ain't got no love for Michael Jackson other than his music was really good. He was definitely brilliant. But what you do behind closed doors, I am not attaching my pro-blackness to that. Okay? But I need more evidence still. But this dude right up here, the evidence is everywhere. And they redacted more. And now nobody's talking about it at all. Every single species out there protects its young from all hazards, including, if the animals knew about it, the radiation. They might, because there's a massive increase in predatory animals attacking humans. I think that's because they're hungry. Their usual food is dying, not from the vaccine. Okay? So I'm just saying, Trump admits he's easily seduced by bad people. What? And that's a sitting president? Stop. So as they keep making comparisons to Trump with Jesus, just know that's not the dude you want to be following anywhere. And it's just, to me, it's just like so simple. But I see for a lot of folks, just being done with anything that's just like not pro us. That's just an easy call for me. Oh my goodness, I almost forgot Exhibit 5,750,000 with the Japanese Prime Minister, my apologies, but she's goes back to Shinzo Abe and all of that. Abe and all of that lying trash, so I don't have too much respect for her. But Takahashi, where Trump brought up Pearl Harbor, like that was a legitimate reason. Like he didn't bring up the bombs and the atomic bombs, and that was a war crime. He just brought up something when the Japanese alerted the United States government, but the United States government needed Pearl Harbor in order to get involved in yet another war that was just fiction, that was just, made up so that they could take out a whole bunch of people. I just want to share this because it was so Poland, pedophilia, bestiality, scandal, his tusk part. We are not doing this stuff. That's not us. And yet, we're like, I don't know, should I trust this, this black woman? She's always talking about white people this, white people that, Asian people this, Asian people that. I would never recommend harming a soul. I hope everybody could get it together. Because there's only one planet. And surely we could work out our differences, especially if we're allowed to have real freedom of speech. Right? So that's it. I can't emphasize enough going to 25,000yearcycle.org. For me, that's an indicator of just how much you know and recognize the truth when you hear it, when you see it, being consistent throughout the years. Okay? I ain't changing. Dr. She ain't changing. We do what needs to be done to protect our people, our own family, and yours. Right? Because without you, there is no us. And we ain't dumb. All right? So go to 25,000yearcycle.org and assist us in doing the vital work that I'm just like, wow, radioactive planet that can be addressed, can be mitigated. And it seems like we're the ones to do that. So straight black pride is our rescue from all this nonsense. All right? All right. Peace and blessings, family. Mwah. I love you.